Well, to understand the product, you have to understand the current technology. The current technology is the pain. The root canal is an invasive therapy that renders the tooth dead. It's 150 plus years old. It is the longest standing frontline medical procedure around today. It's older than dental floss as a widespread usage. It's older than almost every other dental therapy that is out there, including fluoridization and a number of others. To understand this technology, you've got to understand what we do to the tooth to do the root canal. We actually kill the tooth. We take out the material inside the tooth with grafts and files. We suck out that material, put it in an inert material that again is 150 years old, and we leave the tooth to fend for itself in its current state, which can never, ever cure itself, create new dentin, new pulp, new anything. It is just a dead piece of bone in your mouth. That's why the reoccurrence of infection is so high. It has no protection. Now, what does the biopulp do that's different? Well, basically, you drill a small hole into the top, very much like you do a root canal. You remove material that may be infected. If it's just damaged, you do not. You inject this material into it. It has regenerative properties that then cause the odontoblasts or the actually differentiated stem cells within the tooth to be excited and growing and recreate, and we've seen this in small animal studies, recreate nerves and the pulp. You then cap it and come back a couple weeks later to check on it, and you're done. What remains in your mouth is a live tooth. It still creates dentin, it still creates enamel when it needs to, and it goes on living. This is the product. These tools are all familiar to a dentist. There's no switching cost, there's no unfamiliarity, there's no training. He simply sees what he's been using all along in a different form with gutta-percha. But inside that cannula and syringe is the material that is biopulp. He injects it into the tooth. He saves time in the chair. We'll talk about that value proposition a little bit more. We have one patent filed with the IPO. It is not published yet, but it is filed. Now, let's talk about what we're going to do to develop this technology, both in financial and technical terms. First $500,000 will be used to finish preclinical studies. So far, we have finished small animal studies and have shown success in regenerating nerves and pulp, as I said. And we need to continue to do large animal studies, which are currently being performed in porcine teeth or pig teeth, which are very similar to human teeth, believe it or not. They have tricuspids, bicuspids, molars, all the same teeth that we have, just in greater number. Then we move on with an ETF tranche of funds of $1.5 million to the clinical studies, where we take it into humans and prove the concept. I know some of you are familiar with this arduous process. We'll file an IND or investigational new drug application. We'll move through the clinical phase studies. At the point where we've proven that the technology works, we'll go to a larger population and so forth. And then eventually we go to product validation, do registration batches. We have another $6 million target. It's at that time frame that most of these types of technologies are targets for acquisition. Their valuation at each level has increased as the technology becomes more and more valid. This is a very important step that goes through here, where we go to the point where the target of acquisition is most likely. Now I'm going to pass it on to Sean Kelly, our COO, to talk about the value chain of this product.
Thank you, John. I'm going to talk in the field of endodontics to root canal. Another branch of dentistry, periodontics, has a procedure that does a very similar thing. You know, again, replacing a tooth, the dental implant, something that has about a 98% success rate. How does this compare? Why, you know, what is the comparison now?
I think Tom would be best to answer this question.
It's a great question. It's what they define as a success rate. I had a picture of this tooth. January 19th, I had the third root canal on a tooth. I'm now going to get an implant. The tooth was considered, after 3 root canals, a success because they went 7 years between each one. I didn't particularly consider it a success. That is the pain. It's the same with an implant. The implant is considered a success if it stays in place and doesn't move significantly or doesn't suffer bone degradation for 5 years. For someone my age even, that's not a particularly appealing process. Having a live tooth obviously is going to be attached to the rest of your body. It's going to, if it doesn't suffer further trauma, it's going to last as long as you do. So an implant, like any kind of prosthetic device, has got a large number of drawbacks. Most importantly, it vulnerabilizes the body to further infection by creating a breach in your natural systems. That's the most important thing about an implant.
And if I could just add, I think also dental implants are quite a bit more expensive
Yes.
than what we're proposing in this procedure.
I think the question on everybody's mind is, where are you in licensing the technology?
Sure.
More pharma, if we're a more medical device, and I think some of the FDA pathways, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, Doug, will help us get to that point where we can determine where we fit in the either the medical device or pharma into the business.
Yeah, that's exactly true. In working for the company I worked for in San Antonio, a contract manufacturer, we saw multiple companies come in the door who had an exit strategy. But and the most common, what we saw as the most value-added way of doing things is to not act like you had an exit strategy, to act like you were going to take it all the way through, simply because it changed the fire in your belly, so to speak. It changed your attempts to go to where you need to go. When you think to yourself that at some point during clinical 2 or clinical 3 somebody's going to get attention and it may not happen, it can stall your progress. You may not be ready. So the idea is that we are going to follow this all the way through. Again, like Ryan said, if at some point, and this is what I saw over and over again, a larger pharmaceutical company says, okay, I see the value, I got it, then they step in, that's obviously something we'll pursue, if it's the right value. So the exit strategy is always there, but we're not going to move through with this like that's our in play, unless it's the right value at the right time with the right partner. Does that answer your question?
So according to your plan,
He has a number of patents, and so there's a lot of it within Columbia University, within this group, within our CEO and our inventor, a lot of experience with this. And just to highlight, as you can see, I've shared them out there, but also the slide that we just had. I showed that the next generation is the stem cell generation, and that bridge is a very, very extensive bridge because there's so many issues having to do with stem cell. There's a great article in Time magazine that just came out this month. We're a long way from that. We would expect 9 to 11 years before any stem cell therapies of any major import came across an approval by the FDA. Now, they probably be fast-tracked, but not necessarily for dental reasons. So the stem cell therapy will be there, but it probably won't be addressed in the dental field for a much longer time. And so this is a long bridge for us. Does that answer?
And I think real important from the stem cell perspective is that you have the incredible amount of problems and costs associated with producing it in any quantities, distributing it, and storing it. So what we're taking is basically a biopharma and taking it through traditional channels. The stem cell has very problematic. Now, that doesn't mean that one day down the road they won't fix those problems and figure it out. That may happen. But currently, that's a very big issue.
So,
I have a market question. Why are you picking you said the business plan, you're picking your beachhead market as kids who broke their teeth.
yes.
I'm trying to understand why I mean, I understand the idea that they're price insensitive at that point, but why would you pick a group of people who have no time to think through a decision and say, we know that you have the most pain intolerant group of patients in the world, and we're going to mess with their teeth and not make the pain go away right away?
Well, see, if you're under the age of 12, you have a 60% chance of breaking your teeth. So, and probably to a degree that's going to have to be addressed in a major way. Yeah, same here, especially if you play sports. So, if 60% of those customers are going to have this addressed, and these are going to be their adult teeth most likely, it's even a higher percentage as you get deeper into life. They're ripe for this because they don't have infection. The biopulp will revitalize an already stem cell filled tooth. The odontoblasts are just sitting there waiting to go to work. They get agitated by the injury to boot. And also, you're targeting not particularly the patient, you're targeting the dentist that works on the patient. The individual that's going to see these come in time after time after time, and you give him a quick option. It's something he can use in a trauma center